It is now 6:30, so I am going to call our meeting to order for our regular session. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we do roll call, please?
Mr. Bradley?
Here.
Mr. Quincy?
Here.
Here.
Here. Okay, sorry, forgot that quickly. Student showcase. So we have Mr. Ulrich.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce our showcase in middle school this evening. So we have the students, very, very talented students, that will be performing in the upcoming SpongeBob musical. They'll be doing a little sampling for you, a play preview. They've already had the opportunity to do it at our STEAM night, and they also did it at our Unified Pep Rally, so they've had a couple of opportunities to warm up, and this will be their third performance before the big one. They'll be performing on April 11th, 12th, and 13th. I can't say enough about these students. They are, talented in the theater, but they're also students that are engaged in the classroom, kids that are involved in robotics and all sorts of other activities in addition to theater. So it's just an amazing group of students, and they're led by the director, Mrs. Fletcher, assistant director, Ms. Pierce, and choreographer, Mrs. Libby. So with that, I will pass it over to Mrs. Fletcher, the director.
How's it going, everyone?
Thank you.
So, like Mr. O said, these are not all of my students that you're about to see. This is some of them, so I'm going to be here tonight. I have about 45 students total in stage crew and in the cast. Stage crew, I have students running sound and lights and microphones. We teach them how to do all of those things. So by the time the show gets started, Miss Pierce and Miss Libby and I are sitting there with headsets on to make sure things run smoothly, but we're not doing a whole lot once that night comes around. So the amount of work they've put in is incredible. It's just so much work, and we'd like to share a little bit of that with you. So if we can come on in. All right, we have a short little bit for you, and are you guys ready? Here we go!
In 7 minutes, we'll know if we saved the town. But if you keep going on like this, there won't be anything left to save.
Deep thoughts, SpongeBob, but
at a time like this, we should be coming together. But instead, everyone's looking for someone to blame, to follow, to exploit, or control.
I told you, SpongeBob. The world is a horrible place filled with fear and abject misery. You just didn't listen to me.
I still don't. Just look at the sun. It's still shining. Just look at us. We have each other. Mr. Sun came up and he smiled at me. Said it's gonna be the best day, just wait and see. Volcanic doomsday caught us unaware, but we're still here and Mr. Sun's up there. Could be the best day
Come on, interrupter, come on.
It didn't erupt.
Alright, and if you would like to find out what did or did not happen, you'll have to come see our show April 11th, 12th, and 13th at the middle school. Only $5 for children and $7 for adults. Tickets available at the door.
Now again.
That was excellent. Does anybody have anything they want to say or any questions they want to ask?
How much fun is this, guys?
I wish we could have shown you all of the costumes and the props, but they would never make it back in one piece if they come back. There's so many props and costumes and extra legs and arms and things that we have to show you. It's tons of fun.
Mr. Cleary's seen the extra legs.
I have seen the extra legs. It's very fun to watch. And seeing the kids walk through the hallway with them is even more.
Yes.
They have scared me in the closet on more than one occasion.
So how big is this cast? It looks awesome.
It's about 45 total.
Wow.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Well, have a good time, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will be there.
That's right. We will. Thank you all.
Great job.
I'm going to let them transition.
Thanks, parents.
Yes. Thank you.
You guys are singing next? No, you are. How about, let's go. Come on. And a one, and a two, and a
Come on, can you top that?
All right.
I think we should have an administration course.
I am. Not really.
You guys, by the way, awesome at the.
Tara, are you going to lead them in the administration course?
What is it?
You're going to lead them?
You know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. That was cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
That was the word I was.
So, top that high school. No, I'm joking. All right. So, our high school representatives, Mia and Colin, what do you got for us?
Okay, so today we're starting off with our favorite teachers because we were meeting with Mr. Christie today and talking about what we were going to talk about today. He was talking to me about how this is my second to last school committee meeting, and he was like, "What are your favorite teachers that you had in your entire Air Shirley experience?" And I was like, that's really hard because I've been here since I was in pre-K. So like, to try and think of every single teacher, I was like, this was years ago, but I was like, I think maybe my favorite teacher in elementary school, now I'm blanking on what I even said. My favorite teacher in elementary school was Miss Lewis, who I had in second grade, and now she's the principal at LAW. Speaking of like singing, she's what started like my love for singing because we'd go to the nursing home and sing with her at like every single holiday. So that was my favorite teacher in elementary school. And then my other favorite teacher had to be Mr. Powderly, who runs the music department here at the high school. Not only as like also being in choir, I've learned to like get to know Mr. Powderly. He's somebody who really like shows up for his students. And not only as in the class, but like him as a person, he's just shown, he's become one of my favorite teachers. And who are your favorite teachers, Colin?
My favorite teachers were In middle school, it was Mr. Almazri, and in high school, it's been, why am I blanking on what his name is? Mr. Moore, yeah. It's been mostly because I didn't even like Mr. Almazri's class that much. It was just like, I like the way they taught, and they both have I feel like made me a better person outside of classroom. Like Mr. Moore got me into the weight room, and that's I feel like that's helped me out a lot. I thank him for that. So, yeah. The next thing we were also, because it was your second to last time doing it, and it's, getting to the end of school year, we were doing some reflection. We were asked by Mr. Christie, what would you, what's one thing you would go and just some advice you would give to your freshman self? And my answer was I would tell myself to try to balance school and outside life more, because I feel like my freshman year, I was so focused on school, I didn't really enjoy high school that much, but now I've kind of figured out how to manage homework, a job, and my sports, and it's been a lot more enjoyable.
And I said when asked the question, what advice I'd give to my freshman year self, I would tell myself to not be so reserved and quiet and let people see who my personality is, because when people don't really know me, I'm a very shy person, I'm a very quiet person, and I went into 9th grade saying, I was going to be shy, I was going to be quiet, I wasn't going to get to know people, I wasn't going to make many friends because all my friends went to the tech. And I was like that at the beginning of 9th grade, and then I was kind of a loner at the beginning, and I was like, okay. But I would tell myself that you're not the only one who's going through that, and there's other people whose friends also all went to the tech, and all my friends ended up coming back here. But I would tell myself, let people get to know you, come out of your shell, because coming out of my shell now has gotten me a lot of the opportunities that I've gotten today, and I would also give that advice to any 9th grader coming in. And then I talked to Mr. Christie about senior events, since it is April, there's about a month left. I was talking to Mr. Christie, he was like, you have I think it was 40 something days left, was it, Mr. Christie? Yeah, and so he was like, what senior events are you excited about? And I was like, I'm really excited about decorating my cap. I'm actually buying a bedazzler to bedazzle my cap, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm excited about when we walk through all the different schools in our caps and gowns, especially since my little sister's at Page Hilltop, so seeing her and I'm in my cap and gown is just going to be probably a really emotional moment, but that's one thing I'm excited for. We have the senior hike, but I don't know if I will. Maybe I'll go. I don't really like the outdoors that much, so I'm going to try and make it there, but I don't do bugs or dirt or outside, so.
A new experience at the end of the rope.
So I said maybe I'll drive up and meet them up there, because I've heard a lot of stories about the senior hike, about people falling in dirt and mud, and I was like, I don't really do that, so, and then other senior events, I'm excited for senior week, when we all get to where our decision day, all the colleges we're going to, and see how far our grade is going, because right now I think a lot of people are leaving Mass. Also excited for what I've heard is Senior Spirit Week they want to have. All I heard is wanting to dress up like senior citizens, which I don't know if I'll be participating in that either, because that would be very interesting. But I did come up with a costume, might wear a wig, might get a cane, so maybe I'll participate in that. And then other senior events, still waiting for the senior class to announce them, so we'll see.
Quick update on my student council. We finalized on our prom venue. We are doing the Sheridan Hotel in Nashua. I think Alex, our treasurer, just put we had to put a down payment on. I think it was $2,500, which was kind of expensive. But it ended up, the cost of it so far is looking like it's going to be around $15,000 to book it. But a surprise to me was, I think, around 13 of that came from the food and hiring a DJ, which I feel I thought booking the room would be the most expensive part, but that was just a little fraction of it. But yeah, that's what my student council's up to right now. And we have a fundraiser, mini golf fundraiser. I should know the exact date, but it is in the spring. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Date to follow.
Anybody got any questions?
The miniature golf fundraiser, do you have an idea of this month, next month, so we can plan?
I think it's next month, and it's gonna be out on the high school turf, and we got local businesses around the area to sponsor a hole. So every hole is like sponsored by a local business.
That's great.
That'll be fun.
Make sure you send us the date. Send me the date so we can put it out in our newsletter. I'm sure Mr. Christie's going to include it in his, but
I'll send the date.
we'll get that out to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thinker question. What was similar about the advice that you thought of for yourself and that you thought for yourself? What's the similarity?
What's your advice again?
I was hoping you said that, so I'm glad you did.
So like reserved and quiet and shy. And yours was like,
Mine was saying just balance school and outside life better. The connection. You're the senior here, so I'll let you take this one.
Good call, good call. No, good. You can each have one guess. There's no wrong guess.
I will guess. I'll guess after you. I think, I don't know, maybe one thing is they both have to do with like a little bit of confidence. Like before, I wasn't like confident that I'd finish all my work in school or that I had the ability to actually like grind it out before I got home and like manage everything and like keep a schedule, but I've been getting better at that.
Mm-hmm. You agree with that? Is that what you were going to say?
yeah, and then I also feel like, as he said, like doing a lot of stuff, like when you're like, as I said, like I was like quiet and reserved, like when you're quiet and reserved, you like stop yourself from doing a lot of stuff in school, I guess.
Okay. So what I heard from both of you is show up. When you show up for yourself, you add value to you and your character. So in the moments when it gets difficult and it's really hard, both of you seem to set the bar quite high for yourselves. And then in the moments when you get fearful, you shrink back. It may be through work. It might be through how you react and engage to those around you. There's no right answer because it depends on what you're going through in the moment. So show up for yourself, whatever that looks like, so that you continue to add value. That's what I heard you saying. And I want you to take that away with you. There's no perfect way to do things, but in the challenging times, whatever you do to engage with the environment around you, you're showing up and you're adding value to yourself. Okay? All right. Okay.
When you were watching the performance earlier, were you looking at them going like, I was never in middle school. We never looked like that. That was not us.
Oh my gosh, some of them were really short. But then I thought about it, and I was like, I think I might have been that short when I was in 6th grade. And I haven't grown much since, so.
Yeah, a lot of us have been on the committee a long time, and we get to see the show and watch them turn into this all the time, and it's like, I mean, when my kids were in middle school, I would go see them at high school events, and some of the kids would run up and say, hey, Mr. Quinney, how are you? And I'm like, I have no idea who that kid is. And then they would tell me who they were. Are you serious?
Yeah.
There's no way. Crazy times.
And Colin, your mini golf fundraiser will be on April 12th and 13th. I have a source.
Mark your calendars. It is.
What time?
I forgot today was April 1st.
April 12th and 13th.
And where is it?
Yesterday was
Out here on the
next
turf.
month.
Okay, on the turf. Okay.
So what is it?
There you go.
All right.
Call for tea time.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right, we'll let you off the hook. All right, thank you both so much for your report. Okay, we're on to public comment, and I'm gonna transition over to Chris. Now, Chris, I know you can't see, but there's nobody at the podium.
I didn't know if you were asking him to speak.
One moment, I do have one thing I need to do first, and then we're good. All right, I'm gonna have to use my phone. So we did have a request come in. I want to make sure I follow it. Oh, you're the best. Okay. All right. I am going to read something into public comment at the request of Mr. Stephen Tully.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
to read the statement before public comment.
Oh, thank you for reminding me. Got too comfortable. All right. There we go. I'm gonna, oh, I forgot the first part too. Yeah. Okay. Per Air Shirley Regional School Committee Policy BEDH, thank you. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between citizens and the school committee. It is a citizen's opportunity to express an opinion on issues of school committee business. Citizens will have 3 minutes to express their views. Any staff members attending the committee, addressing the committee, are reminded of their obligations under state and federal student record laws with respect to maintaining the confidentiality of student record information and refraining from disclosing any personally identifying information regarding students. Okay, so I'm gonna read in this letter first, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Chris. Dear Chairperson Rubricht, I would like this statement to be read and recorded in the minutes of your meeting. My name is Steve Tully, and I have been a science tech engineering instructor at Air Shirley Regional High School since 1997. I am completing my 28th year in the district and 34th year overall in teaching, where I have served in a number of capacities, working with other teachers, professional support staff, athletic coaches, administrators, school committee members, parents, students, veterans, community members, etc. I apologize for not giving my statement in person, as I found out yesterday, March 30th, about this issue being addressed tonight. My schedule had already been established for this week at my part-time job. Shortly after the renovation project of our high school, I had volunteered to be on the athletic fields project, not as the union president of the Air Shirley Regional Education Association, ASRSD, Inc., where I have served my local for 10 years in this office, but as a teacher in the building and as the voice of the Panthers, where I have been the public address play-by-play announcer since the 2000 football season. I had attended several meetings for the project and was the only rank and file member of the staff who had visibly advocated for the existing project in the form of public forums, various standouts, and a writing support piece in the Lowell Sun providing rationale for a press box. I believe the Panther statue that is currently positioned in the entrance of the Harold G. Norton Athletic Complex should remain. Mr. and Mrs. Quinty bought this statue as a gift to the school. To my knowledge, this remained in storage for close to 2.5 years prior to Mr. Quinty putting it up on his own with the plate that says Malone Panther, along with a plate that has Mr. and Mrs. Quinty's name on it, indicating who the gift was from. There is discussion now of whether to move this due to Mr. Quinty not asking the school committee back in the fall 2024 if it could be where it is presently. My questions are, why is this such an issue? And how long was Mr. Quincy supposed to have to wait to have a gift that he and his wife gave to the school to be displayed? I noticed the statue was positioned where it is now after coming back from Columbus Day week on Tuesday, October 15th. It has been well documented that Mr. Quincy and I were on opposite sides of the athletics field project, but our disagreements were respectful, whether they were in private or in public. Like at the end of the school committee meeting in December at Shirley Middle School, shortly after one of the 2 no votes on the project. The purpose of the rest of my comments is not to rehash ancient history, but how to do now. Obviously, Mr. and Mrs. Quincy have given the school a very thoughtful and beautiful gift that should be available to welcome student athletes, coaches, parents, staff, community members, graduating seniors and families, etc. Personally, I had taken pictures in front of it with my family after the football game on Friday, October 18th, when Mr. Kendall, the athletic director, recognized me for my 25th year as the voice of the Panthers. As recently as this morning, March 31st, 2025, I noticed that there is an AS nameplate covering up the Malone Panther plate. Perhaps this might be a good and valid compromise to remove Malone Panther plate, replacing it with the AS, or there could be a committee formed to decide how to show recognition to former Superintendent Dr. Mary Malone, who was the superintendent during the building of the Fields project. My opinion is that this is what Mr. and Mrs. Quincy were trying to highlight to the public. One idea could be a plate that reads, "To the Air Shirley community and recognition of the work done by Superintendent Dr. Mary Malone during the Fields project. Respectfully submitted, Stephen M. Tully." Chris? Can you hear? Okay.
Can you hear us?
Hold on. Yeah.
Chris? I think we could move if there's anyone else.
Yeah, okay, so would you like to come up? Well, I'll transition to that while we get Chris back on, just so we can move forward.
Sure. Okay. So here we are again. And it was a while back that I'm referring to now from the past meeting where we discussed this, but for those who responded at the last meeting that this wasn't personal, this is nothing but personal. Just like 3 years ago when other members of this group decided that Jim and I weren't worthy to support the Holden Woods Trail Run after we had supported it with an annual donation since its inception. All of a sudden, because Jim had a different opinion, we were ostracized, as were our children in many ways during the Field saga. It certainly feels personal to us. There is no other explanation for the behavior that has gone on. When will this end? I'm suggesting that it is time to move on. Regardless of if you can let it go, we will be right here, supporting the kids, the schools, the libraries, and the community with our time, treasure, and talent. This literally makes no sense. We have a new mascot to the school, installed with a 3-year maintenance plan, for the surrounding landscaping, all donated by Jim and I. Finally installed, and it looks great with the existing entryway. And yet, here we are, voting today on whether or not it should be moved further from the field's entrance because an angry minority want it gone simply because it was donated by us. It just doesn't make sense. When pictures of the installation were first posted on Facebook, people in the group actually said, "Looks great," and then they realized we donated it, and the comments went away. But they were right. It did, and it still does look great. But to the school committee and the administration, I'm turning to you now because this should weigh very heavily on you today. Because as elected officials charged with improving this district, and being sure every dollar spent is worth the investment for our kids, present and future students. Tonight, you're faced with deciding whether it's worth it to spend, what, $7,000, $9,000 of school dollars to move a mascot because a small group of people are still angry at Gemini? Please, 3 years ago. It has to stop. How will this discussion go when you stand up before the towns at town meeting to present the budget? Will you, each of you, will anyone feel that that expenditure of school dollars is justified? That's all I have to say. And I hope I don't have to come back here again. I don't enjoy it.
Okay, seems we lost Chris, so we don't.
Is he back?
He just walked in.
Okay, so let's
he'll be in
give
in a
Chris a
minute, I would
second to walk in then.
It might be a few minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I am going to move to the consent agenda and then we may go back. We'll see what Chris would like to do. So I'm going to move to the consent agenda that is before us. On it, we have our March 19th regular session minutes for release, and we have our warrants that are listed. AP warrant 1133, AP warrant 1132, payroll warrant 19, and payroll warrant 19.1.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
We did clarify with MASC, we don't actually have to read all of them. Just saying that the consent agenda is enough. That is the purpose of it.
Thank you.
So I'm just taking the opportunity just to inform the entire school committee because we do that every week. But we did reach out.
Okay.
And we don't need to do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, did you say MASC?
Yes.
Okay.
The whole purpose of the having it as a consent agenda, because it is publicly posted, we don't have to actually read each piece individually.
Okay.
We clarified with them.
Okay.
Just to relate it to the date that we're dealing with, it seems have to do it and want to do it might be two different things.
It's posted in the agenda is posted 2 days before though.
Yeah.
So that's the point.
Right, so if I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as advertised in tonight's agenda?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, Chris.
I heard the whole thing.
Thank you. All right, so I just moved up to the consent agenda so it would give you time.
Perfect,
In
thank
case
you.
you wanted to go back to the public comment. If not, we are all set with public comment and move forward.
Wonderful. All right. Apologies, everyone. I was able to hear most of what Adam said. Everything else was a bit of a blur, but appreciate folks accommodating me. With that, we'll move it on to new business and Dr. Renda with the superintendent's.
Thank you. I'm going to have Mrs. Bosick join me. So we actually have a shared goal. Tara Bosick, who you all know is the Director of Special Education, and actually Principal Brian Ulrich, we are all sharing a goal to help support and improve the co-teaching model at the middle school. And so this is a brief mid-year report, kind of where we are up to this point. We probably have the bulk of the work that we still need to do ahead of us for the remainder of this year and then moving into the summer. But we'll go ahead and get started. And that is now up, so we can. So we're going to talk about some of the work that we did for the summer, over the past summer in 2024, what we did in the fall for planning and the initial implementation, then ongoing monitoring and support, and then what we're going to do for our next steps and to deepen the practice of our educators. So this summer, this past summer, we made a decision to start sending staff and administrators to train the trainer models for co-teaching. So we have enjoyed our work with Lisa Deeker, who is a national expert on co-teaching and is now working for the University of Kansas, but it's not, oftentimes when we need help, it isn't timely. And we're constantly going to that well, and it's not She's not very expensive, but it is much more expensive than relying on internal expertise. So we went through the Bureau of Education and Research. They offer almost every summer train the trainer models for co-teaching. And so we had representatives from each school and representatives from the middle school teachers and Ms. Tanya Jarrett, the assistant principal, so that we could leverage that expertise and provide in the moment PD and then plan PD for our educators throughout the district, but in this case, especially for the middle school. The training was well received. And the goal for that is to build, and we talk about this often, we want to build our internal expertise on this so that we can rely on ourselves and have our own teachers do the training, have our own administrators do the training. And so we're there. We're going to send more teachers to that and hopefully more administrators to that this summer. One of the drawbacks that we just noticed is it was a 2-day institute last year. It's a 4-day institute this year. So that's going to be a little bit more difficult to get people to go. But I believe what we're going to do is to reach out to BER and see if they can do a train the trainer for us on site. And we're hoping we can get other districts involved to kind of maybe pay for it.
Offset the cost.
Offset the cost, yeah.
So we had sent the staff this past summer to the training, and after school had, began, we wanted to give people a little bit of time to settle in. So in October, I met with Tanya Garrett, and we talked about how we could utilize her and the staff that we had sent. We had sent a general education teacher from Laura White, a special education teacher from Laura White, a special education teacher from the middle school, and a special education teacher from Page Hilltop. Ms. Jarrett and I sat and we looked at specifically the middle school first and how we could start strengthening the co-teaching model within the middle school. We identified staff that is currently trained in co-teaching and how can we support them, go in and work with them and help them in areas that they feel that they're struggling in. Around the 6 areas of co-teaching. I think Michelle was kind enough to give you this graphic in your in the packet that you have, and it talks about the 6 different models of co-teaching. And then after we had identified how we would do that, we talked about how we would train the new staff coming in. And we're still in the process of doing that. We met with the special educators, and I think meeting with the elementary special educators, because they really have been doing this work a lot longer, and finding out from them what's working, what's not working, has helped to guide some of the conversations in the middle school with the special education teachers. And then we have a drive that has a lot of co-teaching information in it, both from Dr. Deeker and stuff that Dr. Render and I had discovered along this journey. So we keep updating that and sharing resources with the special education teachers around that. And then I did reach out to the BER Institute in hopes that they'll come into the district to do some of this training, because it is hard in the summer to get staff to say, yeah, I'm going to do 4 days of this training all day long. So now I'm waiting to hear back from them. And I also found when we were looking some other opportunities maybe for a train the trainer model, because we feel as though if we keep that model within the district, it helps to build the capacity among staff and to be there in the moment too, to support and say, okay, we have a strong co-teaching team in grade 6 in the ELA block. Maybe we can get the 7th grade math co-teaching team to go down and observe what's working for them. Next.
So really besides the implementation, some of the next step at the middle school is we met with the teams. We met with the co-teaching teams and asked them what they thought was going well, what did they need assistance with. And I guess I wasn't surprised with the answers. Scheduling always comes up as an issue. Being able to schedule our students with disabilities so that they are receiving their Tier 1 curriculum needs, and then if they have a need for any type of pull-out service, speech services, occupational therapy services, a specific reading program that can't be done in the general education setting, and get ELA and get math. So it's always a balancing act. So that was an issue. Time to co-plan was an issue, and we're hearing that everywhere, and we're taking steps to address that. we're working, Mr. Cleary and Ms. Bozick and I are working with ASRIA now to reallocate some time that we already have to provide additional co-teaching time, really to all of our staff. But the push for this really came from really co-teaching. Like, how can we get our special educators and regular educators who are working in co-teaching rooms time with each other so that they can plan to make this more effective? That was the number one thing that I think that they asked for.
Absolutely.
And specifically towards the middle school, it was really some training, specific training on the different co-teaching models. They wanted some help on how exactly these models are supposed to work and how we can adjust. Oftentimes when you go into a training, they train you for the ideal scenario of how something is going to look. And it's almost never the ideal scenario when you put it into practice in a classroom. So oftentimes people think co-teaching is a special educator and a teacher in the same classroom all day long. That's really not a reality in most places. The special educator is often doing more than one grade level, more than one subject, so they're in and out. And so having that time to plan so that they can stay on the same page is very important. And as you can imagine, that also, the scheduling of that also comes into play. Mr. Ulrich has some thoughts, and he's working with the staff about some things that we can do to make the scheduling better, which we'll share this spring. But what we started to work on and to focus on is, let's get in and see how the co-teaching is going with some of the models, provide some feedback, and then we'll better know where we have to start with the training. So that's what we've done. We've gone in and seen station teaching and parallel teaching. And I believe the first time we went in, what we saw mostly was one teach, one assist. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think because I've seen all 6 models, so I think it's been really interesting to see that. And I do think at the middle school, what we saw were pretty much really 2 and sometimes the 3rd one. But it was great to go in there and then get the feedback afterwards.
The best thing to see is that, and again, we're talking, everyone is doing this, but we're talking about the middle school tonight. They are jumping in with both feet and giving it their best, right? So there's not reluctance in trying this. They are trying it, and we have a good idea where we can support them better. So that's the next plan, and the next part of it is, I believe Ms. Jarrett is the one who's going to be providing this professional development, who went to the trainer model. There's also been some resource development. There is a co-teaching drive folder with some resources in that. I know Mrs. Bozick is adding to that on a regular basis. I'm not sure how much that's being accessed by educators right now, but I think we have to remind them that that is there and they should be looking at it. But that's where we are right now. We will continue with the walkthroughs and providing that support for the remainder of the year, but we will have a lot more information about where we're going over the summer coming this spring. And then, this was mine or yours, the deepening practice? I can't remember now.
It's you.
Okay.
It's all you.
So we have a spring meeting coming up. I really talked about this. The target audience right now for the middle school are really the co-teaching teams, but our goal is to get every staff member in the district professional development on co-teaching. Ultimately, I'm going to go way off topic here. Ultimately, we would like to, and we're moving towards also applying this to our multilingual learners. So what I know you can stop. You're going to jump in and you're going to want to stop me. But one of the things that we want to do is use these strategies for our multilingual learners, because oftentimes what we do with them, and it really is part of the deepening practice, is we kind of get a recommended amount of minutes from the Department of Ed that multilingual learners should be pulled out and working specifically with an ESL teacher, whether or not that's the best support for them or not. So what we're looking to do is apply a co-teaching model, pump the brakes on that, look at these students as individual human beings that have individual needs, often like what we do with students in IEPs, figure out what that need is, and then apply the best intervention for them. Oftentimes, with some of our multilingual learners, it's staying in the classroom with their peers who are language role models for them, being exposed to grade level curriculum. Oftentimes, because of our unique numbers, we're taking kids on a ton of different levels. They could be a level 1 in access mixed with a kid who's a level 4 in access. That's essentially a non-English speaker to someone who's almost fluent, and we're pulling them and providing service at the same time. It doesn't work well. So we're looking to expand this into second multilingual learners. That is actually the goal of our Student Opportunity Act grant, which we just updated this past week. So those are some of the ways that we're going to deepen the practice. Eventually train every single staff member in the district on these strategies. Everyone has these kids in UAs and in other subjects, and that will build capacity throughout the district. So next steps.
Well, I think you covered them all. So we want to, I will just recap what he said for you all. We want to expand the training for general education teachers as well as special education teachers. We want to make sure that when we hire a new special educator, that they are offered the same opportunity to have this training as well. We want to strengthen the co-teaching pairings, make sure sometimes it can be like a marriage. It can be frustrating or it can be lovely. And, we want to make sure that we're on top of that and providing the PD around that. Continue to collect data to make sure that the co-teaching is working. That's how we'll know if it's working, is if our data scores and ELA and math, if they look like they're on the trajectory of success, then we know that that's working. And if not, then we go and we look and we say, how can we deepen the understanding in the classroom? How can we look and see what type of co-teaching you're doing? How can we break that up? Maybe, do some different work with the groups. We want to adjust the toolkit based on the needs, and I think that was a good point you say, is we have the drive, but oftentimes, I feel like I was a teacher 10 minutes ago, and sometimes you're tasked with so many things that you're doing that you don't think I need to go into the co-teaching drive to look and see what's in there.
Or have the time to do it.
Right, exactly, because you have every other thing that you're trying to do. So I think it's a good reminder to keep sending them stuff, or just doing the check-ins and saying, what do you need, where are you at, and how can I help you? Support the plan development, make sure that we're continuously doing that, and I think we are through the trainings.
And accountability data is a great way to tell if it's working, but the other way is actually exiting students from special education. Mm-hmm. It would be great if students will no longer need to be in an IEP because the small was working so well. So hopefully we will see that happening more often in the next few years. And you did mention that there's co-teaching marriages, mm-hmm. and part of it is there are divorces. This absolutely happens, and it's okay. It's not as severe as it is when it's an actual marriage, but sometimes personalities of teachers working in the same room, it's just not the right mix, and we have to find that right mix. So that we're going to rely on the principals and their feedback, whether they're in the right relationship or not. And if they're not, we might make some changes there. Having done this in different schools that I was principal at, in a district where I was in central office, that happens and it's part of it. And I know when we say it's a co-teaching divorce, that sounds harsh, but it really isn't. It's just finding that right team. So some of that will be happening over the next few months, where we'll be making those decisions for next year. I'm sorry I cut you off.
I'm used to that. I think it's also really important as administrators that we are in there supporting the staff, and that we're giving them a safe platform to say to us, you know what, this is frustrating. I have 11 students with disabilities in this classroom. It's really difficult. How can we make this work? And that they feel safe enough to say to us that, you know what, the schedule isn't working, I'm not getting co-planning time, that they know that they can come to us with that honest feedback, and we're going to take that and try to figure out how to make it better. Yeah. And I think we're trying to make sure that they feel that they're supported and it's that environment. I enjoy when we've been doing these walkthroughs at the middle school. I think that they are amazing to see and unfold. So
time is the number one.
It is
request, and we think we have a plan for that. When we have that kind of figured out with ASRIA, we will give an update at school committee. I think we're pretty much there, and I think it will be good.
Yeah,
I hope it will be good.
Me too.
Yeah. Questions?
What is the Bureau of Education Research? Who are they?
The Bureau of Education Research?
Yeah, who are they?
They are an entity that provides professional development of all kinds for public schools.
Public, private?
I believe it's a private organization.
Private.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're local. You've probably received many mailings from them. I'm guessing you've gotten many mailings from that at home. Yeah, they bombard us with things, but they offer a lot, and it's convenient. Yeah.
You've probably seen it come through. It's like BER, bear, and
Anyone who has an educator in their household has absolutely received these mass mailings.
My question is, going back to when, I think it's a very good observation when you're talking about training and they want the optimal, space for people to train in, which is essentially setting you up for failure, kind of. Have you all ever approached it from like this is gonna sound bad, but I don't know how else to say this, like a disaster management? So when you do your planning drills and things like that, like literally coming up with your worst case scenarios, particularly with it being that you're looking at middle school, which is hormonal and psychotic. So it is. So given that you're in one of the hardest schools to kind of operate in, have you ever looked at, okay, what are I know we have 6 models there, but if you were to say, what are the hardest conditions that a teacher could undergo before having to have an administrator step in? And looking at it that way to almost preemptively, right, between the feedback that you've received and then looking at probably one of the worst days a teacher could have, quote unquote, coming with that approach and seeing if not that you're being reactive, that's not, like, I'm not criticizing, what I'm saying is from a proactive approach, seeing if you can kind of find where the patterns or feedback are that way.
I'm not sure that I'm going to answer, but I don't know if I'm answering this, so you can tell me. Sure. So the 6 different models aren't to use exclusively, like a teacher picks a model of parallel teaching and that's the only model that they work with. This is like, they should really be picking based on the lesson what would be the best model of that day. But learning 6 different models in a year for a teaching team is quite a bit. So I know we didn't mention this, which we should have, and it is part of the goal. Where we're really hoping that the co-teaching teams at the middle school become very comfortable and competent in 2 of the 6 models this year. That is one of the goals. So ultimately, what we hope is that they become fluent in all 6 and even start to merge some more than one in different lessons because they're now applying these different models to the actual learning that's happening in the classroom. So I'm not sure if I'm answering
I think
what you said, but they need to become expert in it and know it inside and out so that they can use it reactively rather than just saying this model is only going to be station teaching. Right? You can have station teaching and parallel teaching happening if the teachers are going to different stations to assist the kids. Does that make sense?
It does, because it's almost like becoming fluent in co-parenting. So, co-parenting, goodness, co-teaching. Well, it is kind of like co-parenting, right?
There's lots of similarities.
Becoming fluent. So, okay, yes, that does.
So when you say the 6 models, and then you said stations versus...
So station teaching is one of the 6 models. So you'd have kids in different stations.
Yeah, I understand that. So what would be, I would think that might be the easiest thing is the teacher can float from
for some people it is.
Station and stuff.
Yeah.
So versus what would be the other 6, I'm sorry?
Parallel teaching, one assist, one teach. What am I missing?
Like team teaching. I actually watched an amazing team teaching where they both sat at the front of the classroom with the HMH series that we're using, and you would not be able to tell which student was identified as a student with a disability and which was the special education teacher and which was the general education teacher. And then after they finished the team teaching, they went into the station teaching, which they've been using through the Hill to do that. And then we have alternative teaching is when one teacher might be doing the lesson to the majority of the class. We see this a lot, but if a student if it's a math concept, that's an example I'll use, and they will pull a small group in the back, and they will work on that concept that that group of students are struggling with. And if you're doing this really well and you're using your data and you're planning well, you're able to actually constantly be changing up your groupings because you know which students are struggling.
And not every student being pulled to a small group is necessarily in special education.
But it could be
It's just based on,
Could
the
be
need.
just that subject or that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
that's standard.
And not even just that subject, but that lesson,
Yeah.
right? It's still like,
Right.
it's not like, oh, math, we pulled these 5 kids aside. It's, we're reducing fractions. Joyce and Erica, you're gonna go get, here's a foundational skill that you're missing. You're gonna get some additional support so you can then get folded back into the class when they get
And that
to-
group was based on the exit ticket
From
from
the
the
day
lesson from the day before. That's where we want to get to.
And so that sounds like that it would be encouraging a lot of pre-evaluation and understanding of the students in your class. And
Absolutely.
are they doing this type of stuff in our educational colleges, in our teacher prep? So that when we get new ones, they go, oh yeah, this is what we're doing? Or are we like saying, well, okay, let's try this? Because that would be a tremendous help if it was coming in also, because then you've got not so much raw talent.
Yeah.
The ed prep programs do a wonderful job of exposing new teachers to everything, but no one that's coming in brand new is fluent and expert in anything. So this is why we have mentors and new teacher programs that like Mr. Cleary runs. We we can catch up very quickly of where we need them to be, but no one is coming. We haven't gotten anyone coming out of college who is ready to jump into co-teaching without any assistance.
I didn't say they might be ready to step in, but are they familiar enough that you're not? It would be nice if they were, but who knows if,
I think they're
what the
familiar
catch-up
with the
is.
concept.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have enough practice time in college.
I feel especially in Massachusetts, it's a very inclusive-driven state. Like, we just had our in the middle of the progress monitoring review and of the special education department, and that was a common theme as I was meeting multiple times now, is that, inclusion and the outcomes for students. So, and Erica, I just want to quickly touch on what you were saying is like, how do we preemptively try to ensure that students, that we know who our students are in case that, and it makes me think of one teach and one observe because, when I was teaching and I would go in sometimes as a special educator that would be floating around the classroom if I knew a student was having a hard time, because that sometimes can help with behaviors and things or a student who might have something else going on, and it's really about knowing your students.
Okay.
And I feel that our educators really have a good grasp on that.
I mean, I've seen it in the elementary school. I've heard it there. And I mean, that's just from like conversations and I will say observing through different just general conversations, I feel confident in saying that it sounds like to me the teachers do have a very good grasp on their students, and it's just navigating the fluency of learning the co-teaching and marrying it with the knowledge that they have centering around their students, and then of course pulling in the data so that they can kind of strategize as best as possible. So what that sounds like, that's the takeaway I would have from that.
Yeah, one of the goals of this, and I think it's an expected outcome, or not an unexpected outcome, but an expected outcome, is that we stop over scaffolding for kids. We tend to do that in education a lot, and over scaffolding is just as bad as under scaffolding, maybe worse. So and you've heard this from me before, but oftentimes, not everybody, but oftentimes when you're pulling students out and you're not seeing grade level expectations and the students aren't seeing grade level expectations, and that the bond and the care that a lot of our special educators have for their students, we tend to over assist and spoon feed, and then that's the learn helplessness comes where, students with disabilities deserve to have productive struggle just as much as everyone else. And I think that's easier to do in inclusion and in a co-teaching model than when students are being pulled out. So the exposing everyone, teachers and students, to the grade level curriculum and allowing everyone to have that struggle that zone of proximal development is necessary. And I think it's easier to do when you're not pulling kids out. So that's what we're hoping is a expected outcome. But that's a hard lesson to learn as an educator. Sometimes doing less is so much more helpful for kids than doing more.
Karen, have you noticed any, I mean, there's got to be a certain amount of social benefits with this.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
with them all of a sudden spending more time with people in their own peer group in that type of environment.
I love that you brought that up, because we actually had a conversation about specific students, Dr. Under and I, that have this year moved to an inclusion model after being pulled out for most of their day, and it has been wonderful to see.
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to talk about this because there are absolutely students who need pull-out.
Yes.
And there are absolutely students who need specialized
Yes.
programming, and they need that, and that's the least restrictive environment for them. But we have to make sure that that's the right decision, because of some of the social aspects, and then the what's going to happen, what are the outcomes for this kid's future, and if they're in a specialized program from grade 2 through 12 or through age 22. They're going to have to navigate and socialize with their peers outside of school, and if we're not letting them do that, how successful can they be once they're not with us? Right?
I just want to say, I think the co-teaching, the collaborative teaching, to me, from everything I've heard here over the last few years, this has, to me, is one of the most impactful, I think, improvements we've probably seen in a long time. And to see, all this rigor going into it now, just thank you for all the effort. I think it's wonderful.
It has been really great to watch this unfold. I have to say that selfishly, it really is.
We have a long way to go.
Yes, we
with
do.
this, but
But I think the staff has been so great.
They're making it work.
And
And it's not perfect.
And it's not easy.
Yeah, our model needs to be improved, and we need to figure it out more. And they're letting us know. They're informing us of what's not working, and we're doing our best to fix it. Sometimes probably not fast enough.
To be doing our best at this, do we think that more staff, so student ratio is narrowed, less kids per teaching element, would be a thought of direction?
I don't know if it's ratio. Our
I don't necessarily
caseloads
ratio, but
I feel this year we had an influx of students that moved in, particularly into one elementary school, and we were able to hire another special education teacher to meet the minutes and the grids, which made the co-teaching easier, which I'm very thankful for all of the support to get that, because we did have like 8 heavy-hitting IEPs move in, and I had to be like, Bill, you can't hit the minutes. But we were able to shift with that, so I have to say, I think we're really on top of that.
Yeah, we might. The reason I'm reluctant.
it has to be a moving target.
Yeah,
it is. And the reason I'm reluctant to answer that is because we don't, as of yet, I'm not convinced that some of the major issues we have isn't scheduling. We have to get that. We have to fix that first. We have to make sure that the schedule is what it needs to be. And then, so is it really a whole? Do we really need another staff member, or have we not just figured out the scheduling in the right way so that we can have the teachers cover the co-teaching in appropriate ways? Because our case numbers, our caseloads aren't bad. Some teachers are higher than maybe they should be, but a lot of them are well below what the average caseload would be. So that tells me that we have to do a better job scheduling.
And I would think that one of the hysterias would be when you have 1 or 2 either sped or regular teachers out.
Yeah.
And you have, it's nice to say we need more substitutes, but we need more of the right substitutes, and that has to be near to impossible.
Well, right now, we'll take a substitute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We'll take everyone who's listening, we'll
Any
take
warm
substitutes.
body.
Anyone, because there aren't any. There aren't any subs.
Right.
It's rare that we get substitutes. There's maybe 1 or 2 per building that are willing to come in, and some people are willing to only go to some buildings, only some levels, or only some programs. So it's much different than it was 15 years ago. I'm trying to think the last time I was a sub caller. I had a list of probably 70 people I could call at 5 in the morning. They were expecting a phone call to come in and sub, and it's not there. And we're fairly competitive with what we pay subs at this point. We're not below the people around us, really. It's close.
There isn't any business I know that isn't complaining about the lack of personnel.
Yeah.
And applicants, and it's all over. So I don't see it as being, it has to
Yeah.
be horrendous.
And if parents want to sub, we will come on in and sub. We won't put you in your kid's classroom, but pretty much anywhere else if you're willing to do it. Yeah, that would be our one. We prefer not to put you in the classroom your child is in, but besides
kids
that,
aren't around to
we'll take you.
hide it.
Adam, one, I think reasonably quick tactical question. Are there any shifts that we are making or likely to make in the upcoming contract that impact the way we plan, collaborate, and set up co-teaching, either for better or worse, that we should be mindful of?
So we are working on, I guess, what we're calling a side letter. So not in the main contract, but a way to get teachers more common planning time. So yes.
Okay.
I think we're there with some wording, how to redistribute some of the time that we currently already have,
Yeah.
so that teachers can have more face time together for this planning.
Okay, great.
So yes.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
All right. Moving along to discussing the MSBA Statement of Interest submission. How do we want to handle this?
Well,
Kicking this off.
the statement of interest is complete. Jay Mooney, our grant writer, kind of took the reins for me on this, and we could submit. I'm here to recommend that we pause the submittal because we want to make sure that we are asking MSBA to build the right project. And we think it is, we think it is a elementary school right now in Air, because for a couple of years ago, we had asked the select boards who could financially support it. Both buildings really don't owe either town anything. They have been great and at this point probably well over their intended lifespan. However, we have an opportunity to possibly use some grant money to have a kind of a mini feasibility study where we could get people who do this for a living to come in and to look at everything and make recommendations to us, which could do a couple of things. It could speed up the process when we do submit a statement of interest and get into the pipeline, and it shows MSBA that we are already putting money into this so that we get the right project. We feel that would be the right move, and we would be very interested in hearing what they would have to say, and the information in that report would be much more updated. Right now we're using the Flansburgh report, which I believe was 2017, and there have been building upgrades since then. So we believe if we pause, use this grant money to do this mini feasibility study, we could actually possibly end up with a better project and have a much stronger submission.
All right. Questions or comments about the proposed delay? Is that the right way for us to frame it? Postponement.
Delay,
right,
postponement,
yeah.
Sure.
I guess really two things. One, I think we had a chance to get some free money from someplace on a grant to get us further down the road. By the time we do get to a feasibility study, some of those bases are covered, so the cost of the feasibility study to the district will be less, right?
We would hope that would be the case.
So that's good. That gets us further down the line. We put a lot of money, since this is Shirley's not ready for an elementary school project now, anyway. They said they could be, but we have done a lot of, I'm not chasing the money we put in over there, but we've just made a lot of upgrades. We brought the natural gas line in there. We changed from high pressure steam into hydronic with pumps. And I think overall, temperature control has been greatly improved in the facility over there. I don't think we're limiting education delivery by the facility at this point. And the real wild card as you look into the future, I mean, you're going to be building a school. They always told us that all these capital projects, you got to look 50 years down the line. And nobody here really knows what's going to happen with that. Right? It's a real wild card. It could be anything. Right? So a couple more years, some of that may solidify, and this will get us further down the line towards a place that we know we want to go. Once we decide to go to a feasibility study, the last, I don't know, what did Harvard pay for theirs?
I'm not sure. Westford just had one. It was over $1 million.
Right, and that's out of our pocket. And initially, if we do that and AIR builds it, then it can be capitalized in the plan for AIR. Right? It would be handled by that. But if we do it and don't build it, that $1 million initially comes out of us, comes out of the district. And that's a big number. So anything we can do to give us a little bit more time to see what that crystal ball says, and maybe take some money off the top by getting a lot of information under this grant so we don't have to retrace our steps, I think we'll do as well.
I would agree. I think having a comprehensive approach when we're engaging in this is best. I like the idea of, number one, we're using grant money, and also being able to be more specific, I think, is always going to weigh heavily in our favor when we do our submission. So I see more benefit to it to stop and get a feasibility study now.
Joyce?
Do we have an idea what the feasibility price tag would be?
We don't, because we have not engaged with any of the
It's usually architectural firms that do it.
right, but this wouldn't be an MSBA
Right.
feasibility study,
Right.
so we could design it and ask them for the scope of whatever we get for that grant.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's $200,000, we would work with them and put that in the bid process of what we would ask for to be in there for the whatever is funded through a grant. Did I articulate that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Any other questions or discussion? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to vote to pause the MSBA statement of interest submittal.
I make a motion that we pause the MSBA statement of interest submittal until we can complete our own feasibility study. Did I say that correctly?
That's more than appropriate.
Excellent.
This is the second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving along. Ongoing business, as previewed during public comment, discussion on the Panther statue placement. I missed most of what was shared because of phone service on Route 2. But at this point, we've talked earlier this year. We're at we're getting into spring, reopening the discussion. And would entertain any comments, additional context from the committee.
If no one has any other comments, I have a motion. Just cue me. I just want us to move forward at this point. Is that my cue? Excellent. All right, so I pretty much am probably going to make the same motion I made before. So I make a motion that we move the statue and have it in the cul-de-sac. I think that's all I need to say on it.
Second.
What do you mean by the cul-de-sac exactly?
That would be where the flag pole is.
Oh, the traffic
cul-de-sac?
circle?
Yes, yes.
I don't think
Thank
it, I think it is a traffic circle.
Okay.
Or the main platform and presentation in the school would be that, right? The lights are on that area all the time because the flag is there, so it's illuminated. You would see it much better than, I think, but I don't know what the feasibility of that is and what it would entail.
So we have a vote and a second, I think. But Joyce, are you hoping to ask or get questions answered?
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. First of all, I just wanted to clarify what spot we were talking about, so we didn't want something else, that's all.
Okay.
We have, in your package, you can see the pictures. We have the ability to put the pictures on the screen?
Do we have them digitally?
Yeah, they're in our materials.
Okay, yes.
Here, I have it. Do you want to look at this?
So you can find them first.
So you have them there. So you can see what we're talking about is, you can see where it is placed. That was on the day of installation. You can also see the condition of the location before anything happened. So it's really about how do you want the entry to the fields to look. You know, and when Beth and I decided to do this, you know, we just the whole fields thing was difficult for our family. It was very difficult. But we wanted to find a way to move on. So we talked long and hard, and we said, look, this is something we can do. We gave the gift to the district for the fields. That's what we did. Right? It went to the Fields Committee, and they said they would deal with it on their agenda, and they would have control of where they were going to place it with the fields. And then it never made it to any agenda. We were never, you would think that if somebody else had done it, they would have been asked to come in and have some thoughts about where they might see. We had absolutely no contact at all until we found that it was just being stored in a janitorial locker. Sometimes when you deal with these things, you have to figure, you know, worry about precedent and all the rest of that, but I think anybody here would be hard pressed to come up with precedent for what happened here in the last 4 years. And in the end, this is the change that was made. And in the end, this field, for all the angst that we went through, the Fields Committee did a good job executing the plan, and I would give most of the credit to Michelle Granger and Dr. Malone, because they're the ones that hustled it through to get the vote. And the communities of Aaron Shirley saved $1.9 million, right? Democracy is a very messy process when everybody's listened to. So we gave it specifically for the athletic fields. If you're not going to use it for the athletic fields, then maybe you should reject the gift.
Okay, I wasn't planning to say anything, but there's a lot of things in there that were misstated. The gift was proposed. It was asked for the Fields Committee to review it. In November of 2022, Michelle Granger came back and met with this body and said that the Fields Committee did meet and discuss it. They had also talked to the architect. It's in the meeting minutes that we've all shared and we've seen. And the architect recommended that it should not be placed at the entrance. Michelle made the recommendation at that point that it should go into the circle where we was just proposed. Mr. Quincy was asked, and he said he thinks that is a very fair and fine location for the statue. It was asked earlier, when is this going to end? I agree. I think it's absurd that we're talking about this. We're talking about this because of one person's actions. We talked about this at length about where this statue should go. And one individual essentially snuck onto the school grounds, trespassed, brought vendors onto our school grounds, and erected a statue on his own behalf, a school committee member who could have reached out to the administration, who could have talked to the chair, who could have brought it up in any one of our meetings, didn't talk to one individual. He erected a statue on his own. My wife puts up posters for the athletic boosters. Before she puts up a few posters on the field or in the gym, she contacts Principal Christie. She contacts Mr. Briggs. She contacts Mr. Kendall. She gets permission and talks to everybody before she puts up a few posters. When I look at that picture right there, what I see is someone trying to overshadow Mr. Norton and the entrance to the Mr. Norton Field. An individual who donated $500,000 initial donation and then made many more very generous donations to the Fields project itself. That individual needs to be honored. And we don't sneak in and allow anybody to put up their own statue on the Howard Norton Field complex. We had a lot of people here that worked on this project. They all said having that be there is a slap in the face. There's only one decision here. And there's only one reason why we're talking about this right now. And one individual is the cause of it. I don't want to be talking about this.
I want to just step in and be the voice of reason for just a moment. We have education under attack. We have our very values and principles and what connects us as a people under attack. And consistently, through history, it is through education that we have had common understanding, changes of mind, and tolerance, growth, acceptance. We have seen strength and valor to degrade the strength and valor that we have been given through education to discuss this consistently and make this more poignant than it needs to be and provide further division in a nation where we are responsible for carrying the torch and showing people the best way to act. I want you to take that into consideration when we're talking about this. This is no longer personal. We are here as legislators at a local level to make a decision to move forward and reorient the course of this conversation, this agenda, and further move forward education. I am tired of this conversation. No one needs to justify their decision in this vote, but the vote needs to happen. We have more important and pressing matters to move forward to. And I say it with passion, not anger, not for or against. We're removing the element of personal feelings, and we are making a decision so that we can move forward. We have people who have been here all day, who are doing their best to be accountable to students, to our community, to education. I have had enough. There is a vote on the floor. We have said what we need to say. Let's vote and move forward and stop dividing each other.
Great. With that, we do have a vote. I believe we have a motion. I believe we have a second. I don't believe we have any other further clarifying questions.
For the policeman issue. Right now, you're talking about, we're gonna be spending school funds on this. To execute this, to move this to somewhere,
Right.
circuit, whatever, plantings, all the rest of that stuff. And you have to decide whether you want to do that, whether you just want it removed.
I'm not saying removed. The motion I put on the floor was to move it into the circle. That was the exact thing I said, to move it and move it into the circle so that we have a finite answer to everything and we can move forward. That's what we're voting on.
All right, that's clear.
Great. Any other clarifications? Otherwise,
And we had a second for that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
We just disrupted or took a pause because there was a question. I wanted, again,
Right.
when we move to a second, there's an opportunity for clarifying questions or comments. All right, all those in favor of moving the statue from the current placement to the cul-de-sac in front of the high school?
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. All right. With that, we're going to move on to the calendar, which I think is you, Charlie.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a copy of the calendar in the drive and also in your packet. We have made some changes to that, as I said we would, because we've had a chance to speak to some folks to clear up the calendar pieces. You'll notice that there are...
Charlie, I don't think it's in our folder. Is it possible to either...
That folder.
Is it in our physical folders?
I may have.
Okay.
It can be there and
Okay.
We can...
Sorry, we can look.
No, that's fine. You get the special folder. Charlie, if you want to keep going, we can wait, and Michelle, just give us a little wave and we'll hit refresh on the drive.
So the calendar has been updated. What we've discussed is we had several 90-minute early release days, and we have consolidated those to make 6 half-days for professional development purposes, so the same amount of time, but a little lengthier in terms of contact time and opportunity for people to do work, collaborate across schools, and so on. So we'll still be offering lunch on those days, because that's often a question that comes up, so we're still going to be providing lunch to our students who are coming in on those days. But you'll see that those half-days are identified in yellow on the sheet. I know that there are more than 6 that are listed there. 6 of them are for professional development. 1 is contractual, the half-day before the December break, and the other is the half-day as the last day of school. We had also moved, we had a full professional day that was scheduled in March. We moved that into January, feeling that that would actually better serve our needs. And the 29th, as per the MOA of August, is a day that is considered a no-school day. So that is, those are the changes to the calendar that we're proposing. I don't know if it's slated for a vote this evening, but we can come back to that the next time that we meet. But I'll take any questions.
Great. It's not slated for a vote, although
We can call for them.
we can always call for one. Are there any comments, questions, concerns?
So you're fairly solid with this, and that's going to work for professional development, and
Yes.
it kind of takes away a lot, because there was how many were there before? It seemed like there was
10.
every other time you turn around, it was
Yes.
going to be a half day.
And that was part,
of
I mean, we had mentioned that, I think, one of the first times we presented this, is there was a lot of flow to the schedule. A lot of it was getting disrupted. So we tried to create bigger swaths of time to allow some of the acclimation to the school year. So for example, there's no early release day or half day in the month of September. So kids are just coming to school. Here we are, everybody's getting used to each other, and then in October, the first day of October, which happens to be an evaluation timeline day, that's part of the reason why the date was chosen, there's an opportunity for professional development there. The other dates that are on here in terms of release days, those are for conferences, so those are only impacting certain schools or certain grade levels on a particular day. And those are normal breaks during the school year, end of quarter, end of trimester.
One of the reasons these half days, we can do them is Joe Rishi, our food service director, has found a way to get lunch done quickly on those days. Probably not surprised, but he and the cafeteria employees are fantastic being able to make this work. Because originally that is the reason that we had moved away from half days a couple years ago.
Yes.
So the January 19th one, which seems, that's a half-day
The
professional
19th
day?
No, the 19th is a holiday.
Oh, I
23rd
forget these
is.
silly holidays.
Yep.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I didn't read the next line.
That's
I
all right.
apologize.
No worries. The 23rd is the professional day.
Ah, gotcha.
You may have mentioned this, but I'm surprised to see that there's no professional development after January 23rd. Is that a change from usual, or am I just imagining that there's usually professional development in
There
February?
still will be.
Oh, okay.
It'll be on the half days.
On the half days.
But this year we had a full day in March, and it was on a Friday, which was fine. The pieces that what we're looking at in the schedule is that a better place to put that day would be at the end of the first semester, because it accomplishes a number of different goals. There's a transition there for students at the high school between semester 1 and semester 2, and about 50% of teachers' caseloads change between semester 1 and semester 2. So that day creates a natural break. It already is a natural break, so making it a professional day works to everyone's advantage.
I think we should just issue this the way it is, because the sooner it gets out there, the more eyes look at it. They start doing
I get
planning,
asked
and
about this more than any other weekly.
if there's any other issues, they will quickly present themselves. So I think we should.
Teachers are okay. I know great.
They are, as you are aware, we are still trying to move to on-demand conferences, which would change the second set of parent-teacher conferences. We don't believe that's going to be an issue with that. They seem on board, but we do need to present that to you.
Yeah.
You would need to vote on that, and then we would make that change
Okay.
for some of these for the second half, what it will do, just as a reminder, is it will increase parent-teacher conferences for students and parents in need. It will eliminate one of the night obligations for teachers, but they will be having those conferences before school, after school, during the day with students who are struggling, in danger of failing, who have shown for elementary students who have a change in behavior, affect, or work production. Right, so there's these triggers that will require teachers to reach out and schedule a virtual meeting, an in-person meeting, or possibly a phone call with parents when we're noticing those things. In the middle and high school, of course, any type of emotional or behavioral change would trigger that, but for students who are in danger of failing, high school is already doing something like this with student success plans. So we're looking to make them more targeted, because oftentimes what happens is because there's such a huge sign up, teachers are meeting with parents and kids who they don't necessarily need to meet with, and we aren't getting slots to meet with parents who we absolutely need to meet with. So this would never stop a parent from whose student is doing really well. I know this isn't about this right now, and I'll stop in a second. Any parent can reach out to schedule a meeting with the teacher at any time, but this would really put the focus on students in need and who are struggling for the second set of conferences.
So Kevin always wants to meet with the teachers. His kids are brilliant, and they never have any problems. And so you feel that they're going to accept him, and they're going to go, no, we don't need to talk to you because your kid's doing great.
No, they will talk to him, is what they're saying.
If the parent wants to meet, we will absolutely find a time for them to meet. But what this will do is when a student is in danger of failing a class, it's going to require a conference. Right. At least on our end, to initiate a conference. We can't force a parent to do that, but it will.
So failing is kind of an extreme thing. So my wonderful child, who couldn't be better, because he's mine, right? So you as an educator or an educator sees, like, he's kind of slipping down. It's all these boys, right? He's kind of slipping down, and would that generate, not failing, but would that generate the educator to contacting those parents and saying, why don't you come in and sit down and talk for a few
I think
minutes?
it depends on what you mean by slipping down. So possibly, but if a student who typically has a B all of a sudden has a C plus or a C, probably not. But what I would say is that parents can monitor those grades in the parent portal. And if they are concerned with that slip from an 83 average to a 76 average, they can call and schedule that meeting. I don't think most of our middle and high school teachers would have a huge concern with that type of movement. But if you're going from a B minus to a D, it would trigger that. So this is the way that this is designed for middle and high school is if you have an average of 65 or below for a period of, I believe we said more than 3 days. I'm going to have to check on that. This would trigger parent contact.
That's going to trigger it.
Yeah.
Right.
And if that grade slip is paired with behavior shift, that's another thing that could, in this situation, trigger that. Like, if Johnny's sleeping through class, unwilling to participate, mean to all his friends, lashing out.
There is an addition that we have asked for in the contract that's not ratified yet. We do have a signed MOU from both school committee and ASRIA where the grade book would need to be updated in a certain amount of time. An ongoing, I can't really say exactly what it is because it's not ratified, but that we have addressed that concern in the new contract. So the grade book will be up to date as long as the contract is ratified. So parents can check grades whenever they want, and it should be up to date.
I know we're talking about the calendar, but I will say, Joyce, just on this.
So this is very good to,
But
get everything on the table at once.
I think the point is right now, the onus to participate in a conference is largely on parents to see the note in an email from I'll speak from my experience. My experience has been sort of whether you have an A student or a D student, at times I've had both, at times both have been those students. It is on the parent to know, oh, conferences are coming up, I see my window, I'm reaching out, I'm scheduling or requesting a time slot. This is much more of a like, we are asking you, Joyce, to come in and speak to us, which I think is, at least from my perspective, a little bit more proactive on the school part. Yeah. Ideally, parents are also aware that this is a possibility, but that is not always something that families know is a resource.
Oftentimes when there's a child in crisis, a family could be in some type of crisis, and those families are much less likely to reach out and schedule a conference. So we're looking to take that off of their plate, and we will initiate that contact because we're saying we need to meet with you. We need your help in creating this plan to move your child forward. We're trying to be proactive rather than reactive and waiting for the parents to contact us and sign up for those. Oftentimes, the parents we need to talk to the most are the ones that don't sign up for conferences.
Any other discussion on the schedule? We can move on to the superintendent's report, but I've also heard some interest in voting on this tonight.
I would make a motion that we accept the draft of April 1st on the 25-26 school year for Air Shirley Regional School District as presented tonight. Second.
Great. Any further conversation, questions, or clarification? All right. All those in favor? Aye. All right.
What is our obligation if we get what is our obligation as we get a change during the session, during the year? What is our obligation to notify people if a change has to be made?
Define change.
Like if
notify.
Okay, well, it's undiscovered that we can't, We suddenly discover on January 5th that on the 22nd, I don't know, the building needs to
Like
be.
if we wanted to add an extra vacation
wanted to
day
add
or
an
a half
extra-
day?
I don't know.
We
So
would,
I don't know what the obligation is. We can
I mean,
find that
that's
out.
what I'm asking,
But
what
we
the
would-
obligation is.
We would
I mean,
call.
hopefully, we never have to do that, but.
We would call, email, text, and put it on every social media. We would send a hard copy home with every student from
Yeah.
every school. So that would get blasted out. I mean, there would probably be some people who might not know, but we would, every form of communication that we have, it would go out. So
Well, it's just
Facebook,
become the
Instagram.
let's say,
Well-
suddenly the professional development, because the people who are doing it, who come from Alaska, it
Yeah.
needs to be on the 22nd and not on the 23rd.
Well, I would say that when we have a snow
not
day,
talking about disasters.
when we have a snow day, everybody knows, and we would use the exact same,
Exactly.
exact same thing that we use for a snow day, for people to know.
all right, yep. So with that, superintendent's report.
There is actually not a superintendent's report tonight. We are in between sports seasons, and there really isn't too much to share.
All right. No chairperson's notes. Are there any topics for discussion that are not reasonably anticipated?
We're actually not in between, just.
All right. Communications. Ashley is unfortunately under the weather, and so, Kevin? I mean, I'll let anyone who's got them in front of them read.
I got it in front of me. Is that all right?
Sure.
They let me stutter through as usual. On Thursday, April 3rd, Page Hilltop PTO meeting at 6:30 at Page Hilltop. On high school spring musical, Honk, and I saw some nice signs around the world of that. The retelling of The Ugly Ducklings. Show dates are Friday, April 4th, and Saturday, April 5th at 7:30, and Sunday, April 6th at 2 o'clock. Monday, April 7th, report cards issued for grades 9 to 12. Monday, April 7th, athletic boosters meeting, 7 o'clock at the high school. Tuesday, April 8th, ASPTO meeting, 7 o'clock at the middle school. And Wednesday, April 9th, ASEF meeting, 7 o'clock at the high school, and that's in this room. Thursday, April 10th, Air Shirley Regional High School National Honor Society induction, 6 o'clock at the high school. The middle school spring musical, which we heard a beautiful thing tonight. Nickelodeon, the SpongeBob musical youth edition. Show dates Friday, April 11th, Saturday, April 12th at 7 p.m., and Sunday, April 13th at 2 o'clock. Wednesday, April 16th is the school committee, 6:30 middle school. Monday, 21st through Friday, April 25th, no school, April vacation. And Wednesday, April 30th, 90-minute release day for grades preschool to 12, late start for preschool, and professional development for teachers. Lunch will be served. Dismissal times, high school 12:55, middle school at 12:45, and LAWPH at 1:45. And I think we had some additional things, maybe someone can do it better than I can, of the success that our robotics teams have had.
We don't have that.
Yeah, we
We
don't.
could do that report next time. But
I'll be happy to share
well,
that out on
the
April
middle
16th.
school got a very special thing that they had the best engineering, and they're going this weekend to, no, the high school, going this weekend to Big E for the next competition.
We will get the details of that and share that out on the superintendent's report on April 16th.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. There is, to my knowledge, no need for executive session. And so with that, I would.
Chair?
Yeah.
Just one on the bottom of the agenda, future meeting dates.
Yep.
The second meeting, it should be Wednesday, May 7th. Tuesday, the 6th is election day. So
Right.
Oh, that's right. We had moved it.
Right. I have an opponent this year, so it may not apply to me. We'll just have to wait and see whether that affects me or not.
All right. Thank you. All right.
So Wednesday, May 8th?
It's May 7th. The date should be Wednesday, not Tuesday, for the meeting.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
That's a good catch. Thank you. All right. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting at 8:15.
Mr. Chair, I would be happy to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:15 if I can see the clock.
That's right. Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.